where people, technologies, and ideas come together to find what's new and what's next, where supply chains tackle tomorrow. It's time for ProMat. Only at ProMat can you connect with over 1,100 of the top manufacturing and supply chain innovators under one roof. Expand your knowledge, learn impactful trends in nearly 200 seminars, and be energized by 4 inspiring keynotes. ProMat is where supply chain pros come together to connect, network, and build lasting business relationships with peers from the United States and around the world. Be among the first to access the next groundbreaking MHI annual industry report on the supply chain trends and the digital technologies revolutionizing the industry. Unveiled by Wanda Johnson and MHI CEO John Paxton, join comedian Jay Farrow for MHI's Industry Night, ProMat 2025. Go to ProMatShow.com to learn more and to register for free admission to the ProMat Exhibits and Educational Conference.
All right, we are live here at ProMat 2025. Happy St. Patrick's Day. Thank you to my first guest, Ryan, here for the hat, and Aaron Go Bra, right? I think is what they say, right? There we go. All right, pulled that one out of my pocket there. So we are going to kick it off here today. First day of ProMat 2025. We are literally 12 minutes into the show here, starting off the week, and we have to start it with some energy. So, of course, our first guest of the week for ProMat is Ryan Lynch, Senior Vice President, Strategy and Marketing at Concentric. Ryan, how are you?
Great, man. Good to see you. I love the pun. Any power puns, we're here for that.
Yeah. We're bringing the power. We're bringing the energy. We're swapping the batteries, right?
That's right. That's right.
We're doing all things around energy today. So Ryan, tell us, I'm not going to ask you how's the show so far because it's only been 12 minutes, right? But tell me, I guess, what are you excited for about this week at the show? Yeah,
I mean, well, one, I think when you look around, there's more here today than there ever has been, right? The show continues to grow. The impact we're making to manufacturing and distribution operations continues to make it a better place for people to work and better place for our customers. We're excited because we're in the kind of second year of Power Hive, and we're at the point of proven productivity. We hit a huge milestone of 100,000 battery reloads last week.
Oh, wow.
So I think we have a lot of customers coming back that came last year. They were kicking tires. This year they're saying, okay, it's time. So really excited about that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's a great point, right? The show has grown, right? We saw at Modex last year, they added another hall. This year. We're in a different hall. We're in Lakeside here, which is actually a very beautiful view if you go outside, right? Yeah. So it's great to have you here joining us, definitely. So I guess let's kick it off here. Maybe if people are not familiar with Concentric, I think we teased a little bit. That's has some energizing behind it, right? But tell us a little bit about Concentric.
Yeah, so Concentric's been in the electrification of material handling power, material handling equipment and automation, and then critical power for the last 25 years. So anything that has to do with a forklift, a reach truck, anything you're automating, we're going to be supporting that either through maintenance or deploying those systems. And then also on the critical power side, which is a growing part of a manufacturer or distribution leader's thought process. We're helping them with on-site generation, backup generation, energy storage, solar, even electrical distribution, UPS.
Oh, wow. Okay. So covering kind of the gamut there of power and energy within the space, right? And now tell us a little bit about, because, there's a lot going on, I think, with power, right? There's a lot of talk about sustainability too, as well. We have the sustainability theater right down the aisle here from us as well. But tell us kind of what's happening in power and energy around material handling right now.
Well, so, it's interesting. The world is converging again around digital, right? We got this idea that was coined a long time ago called Industry 4.0, which includes automation, but also includes data centers and communications infrastructure. And so some of our other customers, like our data center customers and our communications customers, they've been investing in energy in a different level for a very long time. And that is now happening in our space. For the first time in 2 decades, really a generation of leaders in utilities, power demand is on the skyrocket rise driven predominantly by the AI revolution, right? People are like Microsoft and Google and Amazon are putting in massive systems, massive cloud AI to train AI for generative AI. And that's having an impact on all of us,
right?
Because now power is no longer just available. It's becoming a constraint, or for some customers, a competitive advantage and an accelerant.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's very interesting because we see, like you said, these technological advancements continuing, right? But what's driving a lot of that is power, right? Is needed to be able to drive that. So now tell us a little bit about, from I guess the forklift perspective, right, in general, because I know here one of the big solutions you showcase, and then you're showcasing last year at Modex when we talked to, is the Power Hive, which you just mentioned has done 100,000 battery swaps. Is that what you said?
That's right.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about, from the technology side, on material handling power, specifically around forklifts and equipment.
Yeah. I mean, I think the first thing is the backdrop of what's happening in our world, right? If you think about a lot of our brethren here that are supply chain leaders, they're dealing with more volatility today than they were almost in COVID, right? Like volatility and uncertainty is growing. And so putting in systems that, as we were talking earlier, give you optionality,
right,
and keep you resilient is becoming more important for customers. They're starting to plan that volatility is the norm. And so with Power Hive, what we've done is we've said, look, it doesn't matter what equipment you want to run when. We're going to simplify down to one battery size per voltage. And you can put this system in for as small as 20 forklifts. And you can get the benefit of lithium battery, the full benefit.
right.
And while at the same time owning your infrastructure and being able to swap whenever you want. So you can take the operator totally out of the power equation. They never have to think about it again.
Interesting. Yeah. And I think it's very cool. And I saw it operating yesterday when I was leaving the hall after setup, and it's very cool. Saw it last year too, and I think it's a great solution. But I guess explain to us what it's all about, and the Power Hive itself, because it's essentially a robotic arm, right? That's swapping batteries, right?
Yeah, I mean, essentially, we started putting lithium in 7-8 years ago, and we've been at this for 25 years with a program called Guaranteed Power, where you just pay a monthly fee and your power works. And so we got really excited when we started putting lithium in, and lithium's the Rolls Royce, right? And you put it in and it's just supposed to go forever. Well, the reality is sometimes it becomes a paperweight. Sometimes a battery has a problem. So what do? What happens if somebody doesn't maintain it right or charge it? So what we did is we took us back 25 years and said, you know what, that battery room idea with lead acid makes a ton of sense now that I have a clean offering like lithium. Right? I can shrink the battery compartment size down, and I can get to one battery size per truck across all my equipment. And I can put this in, I can reduce the amount of electrical drops that I have. I can save space, and I can, at a push of a button, get new power, right? It's what we should be doing with cars, frankly, right? I should be driving up to a gas station. I should be pushing a button, and 2 minutes later, I should have a fresh battery. Well, now you have that with forklifts. Since 70% of forklifts are electrified today. Yeah. Right. If you own your own infrastructure, of course you would want a swap situation. The financials just make sense every time.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And I think that's a great point about cars too, right? Because I had an electric vehicle, but it was kind of like, and I got to charge it. It takes a long time. Right. So, I mean, I think it's very interesting the way you're approaching it and looking at it and combining kind of maybe that traditional idea of battery swapping, right? But with the new battery technology and the lithium, which I think is really great. So now tell us a little bit about, because you just kind of launched Power Hive about a year ago, right? Or so, to the market.
So we've been in launch customers for several years.
Okay.
But we brought it publicly at Modex last year.
Yeah. And so, and you've done 100,000 battery swaps, which you just said, right? So tell us a little bit about kind of what have been some of the learnings there over that time, and how have maybe customers reacted to it, saw improvements, adjusted with it? I mean, what have you learned there?
Yeah, sometimes you work really hard and you have these visions of what could happen, and then you get a little lucky along. You kind of make your luck. I mean, we've always had this DNA of when we put something in, let's impact their people for safety and environment, their enjoyment. Let's impact the planet. But we got to impact their profits. We got to deliver sustainable financial offerings, right? And sometimes those get out of balance when there's subsidies and some other things that happen. But what customers are coming back with really quickly, I mean, we did one a couple of weeks ago where I walked in, they'd had it for 4 months, and I had people coming up to me and saying, I haven't had to call anybody for 4 months.
Oh, wow.
This thing just runs.
Yeah.
And everybody wanted to be in a video, and they wanted to talk about it, and they were just so excited. They named the robot because now the operator, they can do their job every day. They don't have to think about power anymore. So the people element and the safety of not having to do these massive plug ups, right? Yeah. with is a big deal. But it's 2 minutes. And I'm back to work. At a planet level, right? You're depending on what you're putting in and what you're changing out. You're saving, swimming pools worth of water for 20 trucks. You're saving enormous amount of energy. You also now have a demand response tool, which is really about peak power management, which is something some customers are starting to understand a little bit more about. Mm-hmm. So you can really manage when you charge, and then you can extend the life of those batteries even longer because you're managing when they get charged and how fast they get charged. You don't need as big a chargers, that kind of thing. And then finally, profits, right? I think this is the place where we knew, because we've been doing this a long time, that it would impact productivity, but we have customers putting this in. It's a 3-day install. There's no IT integration. It's a 10-minute training with their people, and then you're up.
Yeah.
Within the first week, their pallet throughput, their each throughput KPIs are going up 5 and 10%.
Wow.
And so, we're not changing anything about their operation. We're just taking out steps that were unnecessary, and they're getting massive impact at a productivity level. It also is saving space. So customers that have value there, it's reducing power. There's a bunch of different knock-on benefits. Some people are starting to scale back equipment, the amount of equipment they have, that kind of thing.
Interesting. Yeah. And I think that's great to hear all those benefits, and certainly that improvement and the fact that it's, I think, opening up the eyes of the customer too a little bit, and their minds about what maybe is possible and what they can do with those types of things. So really exciting to hear that and kind of that progress as well. So now, before we let you go, tell us a little bit about kind of what's next for Concentric.
Yeah, I mean, so we talked a little bit about power and the change, but really, if you're a customer here today, the biggest thing that's happening is you have more complexity in your operations today than you've ever had, and it's only going to continue, both in your operations and in your equipment and in your infrastructure and your automation, but also outside in the world. Right now that we've got this power demand challenge, you really have to pull that utility closer. Yeah. We're moving from a top-down power world to a shared distributed energy world, right? And that's critical infrastructure as well as power. And so we've really, we've got 3 main groups organized to help customers. We've got on the electrification side around forklifts, forklift power, automation. Then on the critical power side, we talked about, power distribution, electrical, and then as well as on-site generation, resilience, energy storage. And then finally, we're moving to a world where generalized maintenance has a really hard time managing all of this with their own staff. And so we're deploying specialized, dedicated resources and a whole real franchise around each of these different equipment types, whether it be automation, forklifts, docks and doors, or your critical power, to help customers kind of cut back on some things. So when they make these investments in these massive, great automation systems, they actually get the full benefit out of it.
Yeah. Wow. And I think that's great too. And I think that, the more we excel on the power technology and the more we, increase our power demand too. I mean, it's great to be able to see that and figure out how do we manage that and how do we get around that. It sounds like you guys are addressing some of those challenges and allowing that to happen. So really, really interesting stuff with you here, Ryan, and looking forward to meeting you over at your booth a little later today. So if people at home want to learn more about Concentric, what's the best way to do that? And if people are coming in later today, coming in tomorrow, Tuesday, where can they find you?
So come to the booth. We've got the full system is running live. We can drop that in a customer tomorrow. It's the real thing. But I would tell you, don't take my word for it. Go to the Performance Food Group as one of our customers.
Sure.
Tom Buchko, who runs their warehousing and automation, he's speaking this week, tomorrow. I would go to that. He's got a really amazing story around how they do innovation in general. That I think any customer will get something out. He's been at this a while, but then he'll also talk about what implementing Power Hive has done for him in his operations. He may even get into what they're doing from an energy management standpoint, because more and more customers are bulking up their energy management teams.
All right, great. And we'll definitely put all that information up on the New Warehouse podcast as well. So Ryan, thank you so much for coming by the booth. Thank you for the great hat on the perfect day to wear this hat. Appreciate it. Happy St. Patrick's Day, and we'll see you a little later over at the booth.
Thanks, Kevin. Happy St. Patrick's Day.
All right. That was Ryan Lynch with Concentric, SVP of Strategy and Marketing over there. We are going to have more with them too in the next couple of weeks. We're going to be recording a full-length podcast with them here on site. And up next, we are going to bring Luther Webb, who is the VP of Data Science and Data Analytics with TREW Automation. And he's going to come right up in here in the booth and sit down on this couch. And also, if you've tuned into our previous live streams at Modex or Manifest or ProMat, we have a little updated set here going for a more maybe relaxed, casual vibe. So let us know in the comments. What do you think? So Luther, can you hear me?
I can.
Good to have you in here.
Good morning.
Thanks for joining us. So this is Luther Webb. He's VP of Data Science and Data Analytics for TREW Automation, joining in here with us. So how's the morning going for you so far?
It's going great. Looks like we got a good crowd here this morning.
Yeah, absolutely. We're 26 minutes in, right?
Yeah.
But it's looking good already, right? So tell us a little bit about, I guess, let's kick it off here. Give us a brief overview of TREW for people that are not familiar.
So TREW is a full capability systems integrator of warehouse automation solutions. And so with that said, we have a strategy of focusing internally on owning the software intelligence that drive those solutions and the connectivity or the conveyor products that then can make the deploy or enable those solutions. Then we partner with the various vendors that bring the best of breed technologies to bear. And so it's on us as part of our full capabilities to have installation, customer support, all the full gamut from soup to nuts.
Yeah, so covering all across the board. And so you focus specifically on the data science and data analytics, right?
Yes.
Yeah,
yes.
Tell us a little bit about that.
So that comes a little bit out of my background. So I have about 20 plus years on the operations side, operating warehouses, and then another 20 plus years in the design and analytical simulation side of solution development. And so with that, there's so much that you can really churn through data to drive these solutions. All of these solutions that we'll see here today, they have a specific range of fit, right? And I think that's where a lot of customers get lost or they get confused or frustrated by what's published out there. And so what we try to do with data analytics and data science is dive into the details far deeper. And so just an example of that would be sensitivity analysis.
Okay.
So it's not so much about finding the sweet spot of the solution. It's about testing that solution, for example, order profile. So when your order profile changes during the day, during the seasons, during the year, when all of a sudden you may be an e-commerce fulfillment, but you could be getting what I call traditional type orders from businesses. Well, their orders look different. So it's all about taking sensitivity analysis and testing those cases, because if you don't, what could happen is if you just look at your sweet spot, you could find out that your solution works on certain times or certain days, but on other days would leave you missing your mark for performance. And so we look heavily into the sensitivities, and we have also built a lot of algorithms around testing and improving the concepts for capacities, throughput. Also, what we'll do is we combine the data analysis with ergonomics and with operationality, right? So what I mean by that is such things as it's not just about, for example, with goods to person.
Right.
We don't leave it at the tote presentation rate, right?
Okay.
You start with that tote presentation rate, but then you begin to look at what actually happens, what physically and logically has to happen at that station. So once you have the tote presentation rate, well, then how much dwell time do you have? How much commonality do you have? Is there any walk time at all? What's the visual look time? All those things that really then to tell you what the actual pick rate should be or will be under operational and real world conditions, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I love that because it is so much surrounding that, aside from just like, how do we just get more efficiency, get more throughput. Like there's so many things around that. There's so much about the user experience too, right? And how you mentioned ergonomics in there. I mean, that's super important too for the people that are going to be working with these solutions and how that works. So I'm curious, I mean, if we look at the landscape here and we're just kind of kicking off here, right? But I know you got your finger on the pulse of what's going on in automation and things. So what's your view right now on kind of the warehouse and the automation relationship in the industry?
So so there's a couple things to consider. So as far as the industry goes itself, I think it's in a bit of a lull, right? So we've had a lot of, over the past, let's say 5 years, had a lot of development in AMR technology, the AI that's driving some of that AMR, and robotics, and getting more effective and efficient about what we can pick up with robotics, that sort of thing. So I think right now we're in a bit of a lull. We're seeing some slight improvements in those technologies, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I think we're ready to come over the next hill and see the next evolution, right? And some of that evolution is going to be, how do you bring multiple of these technologies together in a hybrid solution, right? So that it looks less like a standalone or independent subsystem, and it begins to look like a more of a hybrid or a holistic solution. And then on the customer side, I think a lot of times, because there is so much out there, right? And there's a lot of great tech out here, but I think customers, as I mentioned before, they get a little overwhelmed, right? Because it's like looking at the plethora or the buffet.
Yeah. I mean, you walk in here, you're like, where do I start?
Exactly. And which one do I choose? And so that's where I live. And that is, I think we owe it to our customers as an industry to get beyond the salesmanship, get beyond the hype. That's all good, right? We all like to do it, but we have to really get down to the weeds so that customers understand where each of these technologies fit. And they're all great technologies, but we want to make sure that our customers, the people out there managing these warehouses and deploying this automation, that they have a successful deployment and they're happy with it, they're satisfied with it. So it's about, how do we educate the customer to make those really good decisions, no matter what vendor it is.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's super important, that education aspect, because, even though we walk in here, we see a ton of automation, we see a ton of robotics, right? We see that in the videos on LinkedIn, everywhere. The average person would probably think like, oh, every warehouse has robots and automation, right? But it's very little in the grand scheme of things, right? So I guess tell us from that perspective, for people that maybe have not kind of stepped into automation yet, or robotics, and they're kind of thinking about it. Like, where do you suggest they start, or I mean, how do they leverage their data maybe to kind of kick that off?
So that's the key, right? I think you start off with the data. So many customers don't really understand what data they need, right? So, I try to educate folks about, when you come to ProMat, come armed. Come armed with your, at least, some idea of how many orders you need to fill a day. And this may be very simplistic, but that's okay. Yes, how many orders, what's your average lines per order, units per line, what's your average inventory size, what size is your product? And so you can begin to have a logical conversation, or a rather deep conversation. But then what you want to do is make sure you have good data that then drive these solutions. So what happens so often is, the lack of data will lead to assumptions, right? So if you don't have good dimensional data, how do I know if stuff fits in a tote or not?
Right.
And if you can't tell me what the case pack quantity is, it's very tough for me to calculate replenishment rate, right? And activity. So having that data going forward, I think is key. And then once you begin to talk to vendors, it's about, okay, now talking with those vendors in a way and understanding how they then sanitize that data and how they analyze that data to come to a solution. Customers shouldn't be afraid of all, or hesitant at all, of diving into the details of a vendor's analysis. And then once they get started, I think, as you mentioned, especially with AMRs and some of the other technology that's out there today, it's so easy now for warehouses to get into levels of automation that before were totally shut out. just because of capital expenditures, right?
Yeah.
So now I think those, a lot of the times it's a matter of how can you set it up for a beta test, so do a demo kind of model. How do you start off with? So look for those vendors where, you can add bots, add other technologies as things expand and go, and kind of prove out that system. Again, not necessarily that particular vendor isn't proven out, but it's not proven out with your operation, right?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's a great point there, because there are so many different solutions, right? So, it's like, oh, well, I saw this. And I always go back to my own personal experience where I was in a role and assistant plant manager of a facility, and we had no automation. We had a short conveyor. That was the extent of our automation. And this was back when the videos just started coming out about Boston Dynamic Stretch, right?
Oh, yeah.
And we were doing containers. And my boss goes, "Oh, we need to automate container unloading." And I'm like, "We're not there. we're way behind that. We're not there yet, right?" So, I mean, understanding that and not getting lost in kind of like the shiny object, right? And getting that, I think is really key. So now you're doing you're part of 2 sessions here today.
That is correct.
Or this week. Yeah, tell us a little bit about that.
Tuesday, tomorrow, there's one about the secret sauce, and that gets a little bit into what we've been talking here. It's about all those data elements that we pull, and it goes briefly into, well, how do we use them? How do we use, for example, inventory and order profiles and SKU profiles? How do we use those to come up with the best fitting solution? That secret sauce, right?
Yeah.
And then the second presentation, which is on Wednesday, it's about the next step of that phase, right? So once you have that secret sauce, there has to be, like I mentioned, the sensitivity analysis. So how do you understand the sensitivity to order velocity or SKU velocity for solution A, B, C, and D?
Right.
And that's in session 2.
All right, great. So if you're coming by ProMat, make sure you stop by those sessions and check Luther out. So Luther, really appreciate you joining us today and coming in this morning. Great to see you. Love TREW's colors, obviously, very, very good. So thank you for joining us, and we'll see you out there on the floor.
Thank you very much, Kevin.
All right, thank you, sir. All right, so that was Luther Webb, VP of Data Science, Data Analytics at TREW Automation, and highly suggest following him on LinkedIn. He gives really detailed analysis, LinkedIn posts around warehouse automation, warehousing in general. And up next, we're going to have Nicole Allison join us. She is Regional Sales Manager over at Geek Plus, and we are going to learn a little bit about what they're going to be showing off this week and the latest. So, Dustin, I see you checking in here on the comments. Appreciate that. We made sure that audio was good. I know you made a comment over at Manifest about that. I'm going to take over the hat for a second before I get too hot today. All right, Nicole.
Hello.
Welcome in. Let's make sure we get you here talking to the mic. You can sit back a little bit. All right, here we go. Say hello.
Hello.
Good job. All right. We are live here, so say hi to everyone. So we have Nicole Allison joining us here from Geek Plus. So Nicole, welcome in. Good morning on this first day of ProMat. So tell us a little bit about Geek Plus for people that are not familiar.
Yeah, for sure. Well, first off, thank you for having me. Really excited to be here. As you said, it's day 1 of ProMat.
Yes.
But Geek Plus is the world's largest and fastest growing autonomous mobile robot company. We have over 1,000 installations across 40 sites. We have 46,000 robots actively deployed at our customer sites, which makes us the world's market share leader for AMR technology.
Yeah, very nice. And, we've had Nicole on the podcast before, right? So we dove a little deeper, so you can check that episode out. But tell us this week, because you guys, you have a lot of different solutions, right?
We do.
So tell us this week, like at ProMat, what are you showcasing? What's new? Maybe what's going on with Geek Plus?
Oh, for sure. Well, what makes Geek Plus special is the number of solutions that we have all under the same house. We truly are the one-stop shop partner for warehouse solutions. We can handle totes to person, shelves to person, pallets to person systems. So any product size that the customer has, can be handled by our robotic systems, which is not something that other companies do. They might specialize in one type of system, whereas we have all of these things covered. So this year we're showcasing at the show 2 new systems. One is an upgraded version of our totes to person system called Robo Shuttle Air. It is 40% faster throughput in a smaller footprint and a lot more ergonomic and flexible to install.
Interesting. And I love that you touched on ergonomic. That's the second time that's been brought up today on the live stream. So I'm curious about that point. I mean, why is there a focus on the ergonomic there, like improving that?
The way our customers interact with our systems is always on the forefront of our minds. So we want to look at the operator and make sure that they're in a work environment that sustains an 8-hour shift a lot of the times. And their feedback is what we take in redesigning our systems.
Yeah, and I think that user kind of experience and interaction is so key and so important to the solutions there. So really, important stuff there. And I think, as you look, and I was seeing some of the Geek Plus coverage from LogiMat last week too, right? So you guys are kind of all over the place. I don't know how you guys do it, because some people ask me like, oh, are you going to LogiMat too? And I'm like, no, I'm not like an insane person, right? I cannot do both back to back. So, but tell us a little bit about, kind of talking to maybe what's the temperature was a little bit over there, LogiMat, and now coming into ProMat. What are some of your customers or prospective customers? What are you hearing that they're having challenges with right now? And what are they looking to kind of address coming into the show this week?
Absolutely. Well, the world's a really volatile place. We all know that things are changing constantly, and supply chain is really affected by that. So our customers are looking for ways to mitigate that risk. And that's something that automation brings. But there's so many automated solutions out there. So we're offering a flexible, more modular approach and cost-effective to many of the infrastructure-based automated systems on the market today, comparable to your traditional ASRS or MIDI load systems.
Interesting. Yeah. I mean, I think that, the breadth of solution that you guys have, I mean, you can kind of, start with anyone, right? At any different level. So with that in mind, I mean, you talk about these different types of solutions, right? For people that maybe are coming into the show, maybe they only have a little bit of automation going on. Maybe they're just looking to get started, like their boss just told them, we need automation this year, right? Where do you suggest like they start, or how do you guide them through that process?
Well, that is so true. Most companies nowadays have an innovations team specifically looking for robotics and automated solutions within their operations, big companies and small companies. So what I would say to look for are solutions that are tried and true. So Geek Plus definitely has the market share and the number of customers now to back up what we're putting on the market, but also our ease of deployment. I want to talk a little bit about our Pop Pick Lite solution.
Sure, let's do it.
It's another solution that we're unveiling at the show. The workstation can be put up in 2 hours, and the entire system can be running in 2 weeks, which is great for a brownfield operation where we can't afford to have downtime.
Yeah.
Or we have to keep the existing picking system live while we're implementing this system. So that's truly extraordinary. A lot of traditional ASRS or totes to person systems, they take years to put up, a lot of floor modifications, whereas this, we can easily deploy in an existing site.
Yeah, I think that's great. And I'm seeing like just a trend in the industry in general to try and have these faster deployments, more addressable for like brownfield settings like you talked about. And I'm curious, I mean, you guys are coming out with a solution to do that, right? And but tell us a little bit about like what's driving that? Like where are customers saying, because before, I mean, especially for some of the, the big players in the industry, like they're like, oh, if we're going to do full on automation project, like we're going to go get a new building and do that. Right. But what's driving people to like say, you know what, we need to do something with like our existing real estate, and we need to do it quickly too. Right. I mean, what's the driving factor there?
Absolutely. Well, I think speed and supply chain is the name of the game for everything.
We love speed. Yeah.
We love speed. But I think that's really driven by cost. Everything revolves around that. 70% of our customers' operating budget is labor, and that's always a shifting thing. Every day there's something new on the news in regards to supply chain. So being able to implement something quickly to address a need now is really what we're striving to bring to our customers.
Yeah, yeah, and I think that it's so telling too, because the more I think penetration in the market, right, around automation and robotics, and you start to get into, obviously like the Amazons of the world, right, like they have time, they have money to like invest in these robust projects and things, but as that penetration increases and we get more into like the mid-market companies, even like small business companies, right, that speed becomes even more critical, right, and they don't have time to like test around, right, they don't have time for that. They want to go live quickly. So tell us a little bit about what do you see like in terms of what market is that kind of addressing, and what market are you going after like with that solution?
Absolutely. So as you said, automation used to be traditionally for very sizable companies with a new site. Now we're seeing a lot of the smaller companies come to Modex looking for automated solutions, and we have ways that can help them out. Flexibility is so important. Having a type of system that can handle different product sizes, because customers' businesses change. And also an automated system that can move with the customer to another side of the building, and they can lease out the other side of the space, or move and redeploy systems entirely. And that's something that Geek Plus does offer with how flexible our systems are.
Interesting. Yeah, and that flexibility I think is so key. So I'm curious, as you get prepped for here, and obviously you've done trade shows before, right? You're a killer in the space, right? So at these events, right, I'm sure you get a ton of traffic at the booth, right? Especially with robots in there, like people are like, oh, what is this, what's going on, right? But how often do you have people that maybe coming to the booth thinking, maybe they're in that phase where like they're just starting to think about automation, and they think they want to go after this type of automation, or they want to automate this process in their operation, but how often is that not necessarily like the right first step? Like how often are you talking to them, getting to understand the operation more, and telling them like actually like you should start here instead? Yeah, tell us a little bit about kind of that process.
Absolutely. I think the most important thing is spending time with the client and learning about their existing process flow. I have to understand your business back to back before I can think about an automated solution. So everything starting from receiving all the way to shipping, I need to know everything that's happening upstream and downstream of what we're looking to automate to come up with the best solution. And then it's having that mindset that let's automate for perhaps year one, but let's think about what's happening in year 5. But going with an approach that's feasible. So we don't have to build for peak necessarily. We don't have to build for a 10-year game plan. With Geek Plus, we can start with a pilot or a proof of concept, or maybe just your A or fastest moving SKUs, and then grow the system from there, and then change the system. A lot of our more sizable customers that have multiple sites, they started with one type of solution, then things changed, and they transitioned to another type of robotic product. Or they use their existing robots to deploy to a new site, and so it all stays in their ecosystem, but it's never dollars wasted.
Yeah. And I think that goes back to that flexibility point, right? Like that you can, have these robots in like, in a couple years, like they're not going to be like, they're not good anymore, but we can redeploy them here, or we can do something differently with them. And I think that flexibility is such a key factor. So really interesting to talk to you here, Nicole, and thank you so much for joining us here in the booth. If people are here this week or coming in a little later this week, where can they find you?
So we are in the North Hall, Building B. We're right by the front entrance. You can't miss us. Please stop by our booth, but also please follow us on LinkedIn. So if you're not coming to the show, we have several webinars on our radar, and we want to continue to educate our clients and interact with them. But we really do expect it to be such a busy week. So if you are here, make sure to stop by.
Definitely. Yeah. And we're happy that we could get her in the beginning of the week, because it's going to be crazy busy this week, I'm sure. And I will say, additional to following you guys on LinkedIn, make sure if you're watching us on YouTube too, subscribe to their YouTube channel. They're putting out tons of YouTube content that's really, really cool, really exciting. It shows a lot of the different installations they've done, a lot of different solutions. So it's really great stuff there. So kudos to your content team too. So
our marketing team is so fire. So please
they
make
rock,
sure
definitely.
Follow our YouTube channel. They're great.
All right. Well, appreciate you coming by, and we'll see you a little later this week over at the booth. So thank you so much, Nicole, for joining us.
Awesome. Thanks,
All
Kevin.
Right. All right. So that was Nicole Allison from Geek Plus here. up next, we are going to have our next guest. Up here. Come on in. We are going to have Mark Barmletter. How are you? Good to meet you. Take a seat. Throw on the headphones. All right, get comfortable there. There we go. How are you, Mark?
I'm doing well, Kevin. Thank you very much.
Good morning. Oh, good there? All right. So Mark is joining us here. Is the Senior Director of Engineering at Flux Power. Doing well this morning. Just kicking things off, right? In the first hour of ProMat 2025, right? We're going to see how this week unfolds.
And my first ProMat, too.
Your first ProMat ever?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Very nice. Well, welcome.
Thank you.
We hope you have a great week. Definitely. So tell us a little bit about Flux Power for people that aren't familiar.
Sure. Flux Power is a U.S.-based corporation. Our headquarters is in Vista, California, just north of San Diego.
Okay.
We have a customer support team in Atlanta. And what Flux Power does is we design and manufacture intelligent lithium-ion energy storage solutions, primarily used in material handling and GSE markets, ground surface equipment markets for airports. We're a bit unique. We design our own BMS system. We design our own telematics system. And we have a full cloud-based solution called Sky BMS, which is our telematic data repository, our analytical engine, and our customer UI presentation.
Interesting. So kind of the full suite there, a little bit around the power.
Yeah, we own the design and own the whole products line, and then we own the whole data chain from the intelligent battery all the way up through the telematics and the cloud-based solution.
Gotcha. Interesting. And I saw that you guys categorize yourself as a full cycle energy solution, right? Or solution partner, I think, right? So tell us, tell us exactly what does that mean?
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, it's not a technology play. It's it speaks to our philosophy of partnering with our customers. So Flux Power doesn't want to just sell you a battery. What we want to do is work with our customers, be it people who are new to adopting lithium-ion energy or people who want to scale up their current fleet. What it means is that our sales team and our customer service team will work with the customer, understand their challenges, understand their requirements. We'll work to design a battery solution for them that will work in their capacity, that will meet their needs and their efficiency. When it comes time to integration, both with an OEM or with a end user, we'll be there to help them to install the battery, to integrate the battery into their truck. And then post-sale, we'll be there to support them with our sales team, our customer service team in Atlanta and in California. We'll be there to support their needs, any issues they're having, do training, bring them up on the telematics system. If they've adopted telematics, train them on the Sky BMS. Basically, get them up and running and make them most effective as possible.
Interesting. So definitely handling that kind of end-to-end spectrum, right, on the battery side and the energy side there. So tell us a little bit about the telematics platform and kind of like what's the latest there and what I guess maybe start with, for people that maybe are not familiar, like why does telematics matter?
Well, let's start with what telematics platform is.
Sure.
A telematics platform, our definition is the ability to obtain the data from the battery, the intelligent battery system, through the VMS, transmit that typically wirelessly, probably cellular, up to through our telematics system up to a data repository. In our case, that data repository is our Sky BMS system, and then be able to do analytics on that data, and then give the user a presentation, a graphical user interface.
Sure.
So what's new for Flux Power and telematics? At ProMat, we're actually announcing the release of what's called Sky EMS. So Sky BMS is the data repository, analytical engine, and the graphics, but it has tremendous amount of data. So Sky EMS is a client-centered product, a web application companion to Sky BMS that really focuses on what the customer's needs are, what are their KPIs, the key performance indicators, a dashboard format, so a simplification of the user interface but it also allows the customer to tailor what they want to see in their solution. So that's announcements being made at ProMat. The other thing is we've spun up additional engineering resources to build on our analytics, our algorithm development, our machine learning, our AI. So that's something that my team is focused on, is improving our current algorithms and then generating new algorithms to bring more value to the customer.
Interesting. And I think, data has been such a theme. I mean, data has always been there, right? But it's become increasingly more prevalent through the supply chain in general and as a whole, right? And, I think getting a better harness on that is such a good thing. So, I mean, tell us a little bit about, what were you hearing from the market that made you go out and kind of create this new solution that's going to have even more data?
So again, in intelligent lithium-ion battery solutions, there is that data as opposed to lead acid. And what our customers were looking for was a easier dashboard to navigate. Again, focusing on what their KPIs are instead of having to navigate through the sea of data that's in BMS. So things like a clear state of health, state of charge, more access to what the vehicle is actually doing, being able to look at the vehicle operating time, charging times, to tailor and to basically build up best practices for that.
Interesting. Yeah. And I think it's so great to be able to harness that, because data can give you so many answers, right? And can tell you so many different things to be able to navigate there and also how to improve your operations, right? So maybe give us an example or two of maybe from your customers, like how has getting access to this data allowed them to make better decisions about their operation, or what everyone likes to do, save costs, right? We got a couple minutes here. Yeah. Tell us one here.
Well, let's start with the data that we can gather. So
Sure.
The BMS and the battery working together, we can gather data about the cell temperatures, cell voltages. We can gather data about the state of charge, state of health. We can also gather data about when the vehicle's in operation, what times it's in operation, what the energy requirements are, how much current it's drawing. We can get information about the charging cycles. And then in some cases, when we have a GPS on board, we know where the asset's located. So one of the things that some customers ask for. So let's start with one of my large customers who has a big fleet of vehicles.
Okay.
They wanted to know how they could extend the lifespan of their fleet of vehicles. So what we did is we looked at the data, we looked at their state of health data, we looked at their use data, and we identified patterns where you had some trucks that were being heavily used, some medium use, and some lightly used. So what we did is we set up going through the data and do the analytics, we set up what we call a cascade plan for their equipment, which allowed them to take certain units in their heavy use and move them over to the lower operating use, and the vice versa, take those units that were being less used and move them into their higher use. So what it did is it kind of leveled the playing field on the equipment, the longevity of the equipment, and equipment use. Another really interesting one was we had a customer that wanted to optimize their fleet readiness, and they weren't really happy with fleet readiness. So we looked at their state of charge.
Okay. So when you say readiness, you mean like
how many of my assets are ready to be used at any one given time?
Gotcha.
If I have an asset that has reached the end of its charge and I have to go charge it unexpectedly. So what they were looking for was just a higher level of readiness from their fleet of vehicles. So what we did is we looked at their state of charge, we looked at their charging patterns, we looked at their use patterns, and we also looked at their idle patterns. And we identified opportunities for them to charge during their idle periods instead of just leaving the asset alone. And we gave that feedback to them. And that allowed them to build a plan for a better routine for charging and a better routine for bringing the fleet up to a state of a higher readiness.
Interesting. Yeah. And I think that's a great example there, right? Because I think there is like a lot of sometimes unknown, right, of where you could actually improve the utilization of your fleet, right? And it comes down sometimes simply to as like, oh well, it's just you're sitting idle, right, too long, or somebody's not plugging it in at the end of the shift, or when there's an opportunity to do that, right?
One would think that, right?
Yeah.
But people are human.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
we are.
And we don't always execute the best practices. So,
yes.
Maintaining that fleet, maintaining that readiness does require some changes from, when you're in the lithium ion space versus the lead acid space. There's one more example I'd like to give you that's completely unrelated to performance. A large user of ours, who's been a user for many, many years, they wanted to know how to forecast for replacing batteries so they could do a budget in their forecasting plan. So what we did is, again, we looked at their state of health and we looked at their use models, and we were able to build a forecast plan for them for year 1, year 2, and year 3, which gave their accounting team, the finance team, hard evidence for building in replacement costs for batteries. And my wife is a CPA, so I get honed into financial planning. Yeah. So completely outside of the realm of performance and cost reduction, really in the world of financials, right? Being able to budget for replacement of batteries. Client was incredibly happy with what we did. And I think pretty unique.
Interesting. Yeah. And I think it's so interesting to see, like I was talking earlier, that data, like there's so many answers lying in that data, but then once you add something to them, like the telematics, right, or the Sky EMS or Sky VMS, and give some visualization to it, right, to be able to really easily kind of digest that data, and now all of a sudden it's like, oh, like this is what's going on, or this is the opportunity we have. I think that's such an unlock for an operation or business in general, right? And I think it's really great to hear those examples to kind of understand like the power that some of that data can have for you, and I think it's really interesting. So really appreciate you coming and sharing those examples with us here today, Mark, this morning here on ProMat Day 1. If people are interested in stopping by, saying hello this week, or learning more about Flux Power at home, what's the best way to do that?
Well, our booth is right around the corner. You can look us up
in Lakeside.
We're obviously in the ProMat format, so they can reach out to us. But if people looking at this podcast, they can look me up. My last name is Barmettler, very unique. You can find me.
Yeah.
Would like to make one more final plug.
Sure.
Just last week, we shipped our 25,000th battery solution.
Wow. Well, congratulations.
Yeah, thank you.
Definitely. All right. Well, that's great news to hear here, and definitely check them out if you get the chance. And it's great to get those examples on data. I think the examples really help people understand like how powerful that can be. So really appreciate you coming by, Mark, and hope you have a good rest of the week.
Thank you very much, Kevin. Thank you for inviting me on.
Of course, definitely. All right. So that was Mark Barmettler. He is the Senior Director of Engineering at Flux Power. And up next here, we are going to have Stipe from TGW join us here on the couch. Oh, he's ready. He's got his game face on, I can see. So I see you guys in the comments here. Oh, just logged in fresh off the forklifts. Wow. Now that's the ideal viewer right there. We appreciate you tuning in from vacation too, Nick, as well. And somebody needs a robot to drive around their warehouse cat. That is interesting. We'll have to have a conversation about that. But Stipe, welcome in. How are you, sir?
I'm doing good.
Good to see you. Let's make sure you're talking into the mic here. Good.
Oh, work?
Yeah, I think so. Hold on. Wants to tip a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, grab that for me for a second. Just like hold it there. Let go. There we go.
There you go.
All right. You see, we're solving problems here live at ProMat, because that's what we do in this industry, right? Is we solve problems. There's challenges, there's problems, we solve them, right?
Exactly. That's how it goes.
So thanks for coming in. Thanks for joining us. How's everything going for you so far?
Very good. I mean, I just traveled in from Europe, so I'm awake since 4 a.m. and ready for the show.
All right. Well, we appreciate you coming right from the airport here and joining us, definitely. So give us kind of a brief overview of TGW and what you guys do.
So TREW is a foundation-owned company, but basically we warehouse automation providers. We do robotics, software, machines, PLC, everything which you can see in a warehouse. We are also an integrator, which means I would say for most of our solutions we provide 80%, 70 to 80% of the stuff within the warehouse from ourselves, and 20 to 30% we partner up with the best-in-class technology companies to, let's say, make a comprehensive portfolio which offers best-in-class services for our customers.
Yeah, so kind of covering the gamut there in a sense, right, of covering what's going on. So, with that with that being said, and you kind of, I'm sure, talking to a lot of customers about all these different things that are going on. We're here at ProMat. People, there's going to be like 50,000, 60,000 people descending upon Chicago, right, from the material handling industry. I mean, what are you hearing out there right now that are kind of, some of the biggest concerns, maybe challenges that these people are facing in their operations?
I mean, I would say there are maybe three topics. The first one, nearshoring, is a big discussion within them. I mean,
definitely.
Very hot, very tricky to get very accurate answers on how people see these things, I think. Second aspect is the omnichannel experience. I mean, all these retailers are trying to provide really great omnichannel experience to their end consumers, which have a massive impact on their supply chain. Might this be within the warehouse or on the transportation or handling returns, delivering on SLAs, keeping this customer loyalty. I mean, and automation within the distribution centers plays a big role there. I would say this is the second big thing. And the third one, I would say it's really to keep up with the pace of innovation. I think a lot of customers, I mean, they walk into ProMat and they see all this shiny stuff.
There's
and
a
say,
lot, yeah.
Hey, how are we gonna do it? It's this fear of missing out. Am I missing something? Do I really need to invest in these aspects and so on? And actually, quite a funny story. I think they're all looking at technologies, but I think if I would have asked these questions our customers 4 or 5 years ago, they would say, hey, we are all into cutting edge technology. We want to have the newest and shiniest things. But today they really look for how we're going to make sure that the holistic view is the right one and all this stuff, how we're going to integrate all these technologies to work seamlessly together. And if you ask them to choose between cutting edge technology or a seamless integration, which is really reliable, I think most of them would choose seamless integration and a reliable operation.
Yeah, definitely. And I would say I would choose that. Definitely. Yeah. I mean, I think, do you think that's, because you mentioned 4 or 5 years ago, right? And 4 or 5 years ago, if we think back, it was like COVID times, right? Pandemic times, but it was also still pretty early in kind of the robotics landscape and automation in general at, some of the higher level of technology that we're seeing now. I mean, do you think that what's happened is that, a lot of people have now maybe gotten used to seeing these things, right? And now, they're looking at it to see like, well, what's actually effective in a sense? I mean, how do you think like that mindset has shifted a little bit?
No, I think you're spot on. I think exactly that was the case. I mean, we called it the golden time of warehouse automation,
Yeah.
A lot of money was out there. People wanted to invest.
Yeah,
so
you guys were killing it, right?
So a lot of people tried to do things, and I think, as you said, after a couple of years, they learned what doesn't work, or maybe it's not even up to the technology. I would say, every retailer or every company is on their own automation journey, and depending where you are on this journey, a certain technology makes more or less sense in that moment, because it's not just about to put technology really in there. It's really having an ecosystem which works and allows this technology to perform in its best possible ways. And I think that's what people have recognized, and that's why they also sometimes now taking a step back and saying, hey, let's figure this out. How does this work in this bigger picture? And is this really the right investment for us?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's interesting to see that kind of shift a little bit, because I think also too, like the customer or potential customer is much more educated in a sense as well, exactly, right? Yeah. But tell us a little bit about, because maybe 4 or 5 years ago, maybe a few years before that, right, there was a lot of talk about kind of the dark warehouse, right, or lights out warehouse, but you don't hear too much of that discussion anymore, I don't think. And so where do you see kind of, we see tons of automation. I mean, I see, I just look right to the right and there's like a robot moving around, right? So, it's all over the place, right, in our industry. But where do you see kind of the balance between, whether it's automation, robotics, AI, but then also still like the human aspect of what we do?
I mean, I would maybe do the first thing. I would separate it into industries, depending on which industries you are in. The automation degree is higher or less. I mean, if you look in the grocery retail industry, I mean, we have been building since 20 years distribution centers, which are from depalletizing to pelletizing, creating mixed case pellets fully automated without human interactions, except in error cases. So this was already somehow dark, this process step, 20 years ago. But then if you go into this fashion industries or a lot of these e-commerce environments, which you need to differentiate as a company. Then you provide certain valued services. You need to deal with returns. You need to deal with customization. And that makes it really, really tricky, to automate. So I think there will always be a place for humans. I think the automation is really gonna take away the majority of this heavy lifting, I would say, and people will still stay there for how to make sure that the best possible experiences are provided to end consumers, and do all these jobs which need to be done within the warehouses. And then if we talk about AI, I mean, it's a question how far it will go. As of today, I see it really as a supportive system where it's really next to people, trying them to help manage things and make things more visible, make things more predictable and so on. But I mean, nobody knows. Maybe there is no limit.
Yeah. I think only the AI knows.
Exactly.
I mean, I think it's really interesting, right? And you mentioned something there too about kind of, designing these solutions and a lot of that heavy lifting, right, kind of going away in a sense. So with that being said, I mean, when you think about doing a project, right, or putting a solution together for a customer, I mean, how do you think about that user that's going to be involved in the process somewhere?
I mean, the way we tend to say, we don't sell technology, we sell process improvement, and that's also the approach which we try to take. So when there is a problem, we don't try, hey, here is the right technology for it. We really try to understand what's the process behind it and what's the aim it's going to fulfill in the value chain of our customers. And that's how we try to figure out, okay, which steps do really make sense to keep them with people, and which steps make sense to automate, and which steps does it make sense to make it collaborative between people and robotics. I mean, for example, our goods-to-person environments, we apply robotic picking there, but at the same time, these pick stations can be used by people. So depending on order profile, I don't know, as an example, if you need to fulfill retail orders and you need to grab 3 or 4 units per line, a human can do this with one touch. A robot needs to do it piece by piece, for example. So a human might be 3 or 4 times more effective on a peak retail day than a robot might be, which might be different on a peak e-commerce day. And the robot is super accurate because it's always just one pick per tote which is presented. And we try to use and to guide our customers in the best possible way, to use people when it's the right time, and to use robotics when it's the right time. But it's all about understanding really the processes and finding the right spots for each of them.
Interesting. Yeah. And I think it's interesting to figure out that balance, right? It's certainly like an equation, almost a formula, right? To figure out, within your operation, like you said, depending on what you're doing or, what's going on, like how do we find the right solution to address that, and what makes sense to even put a solution, right? Or go after a solution.
And maybe to add on that, I mean, we did our mistakes there, when we started robotic picking, I think already 7-8 years ago, we developed great solution technologically. From a technology aspect, fantastic. Performance is great. Cost-wise, also not too bad for that times, I would say. But the assumption was, master data is going to be accurate. We know these things. We try to create an environment which is perfect for a robot. But that's not the real world, and that's why after making these learnings and failing to a certain degree, we learned, hey, we need to get more flexibility in there and allow for this collaboration between humans and robots, and don't purely rely on the technology.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's super interesting there. And I think, thinking of that, the perfect environment, right, is definitely, there's a lot of, data and things that need to be kind of cleaned up and things to get that together and do that. So as we close out here our conversation, I'm curious, what do you think this week, because we're on day 1 here of ProMat, what do you think is going to be the biggest topic this week that you're going to talk about with potential customers?
I mean, software is a big thing, and AI falls into that, I would say. So that's obviously the starting point, because we see a lot of customers really now not starting at the hardware technology level, but really at, hey, we need to get our software right to make sure that we can fit everything below. So I think the software aspect, and I mean, obviously then about all this robotics, and I mean, coming back to what you said about the dark warehouse, I don't think it's 100% dark warehouse, but we have customers out there where we have made some portions and process steps of the warehouse dark, like the inbound process for Gap or companies like that. And I think this is obviously always a topic where they say, hey, look, where can we really get there, and where do we need still to keep this collaboration between people and robotics?
Very interesting, and we'll definitely be looking forward to hearing how it goes this week, and also seeing what you guys got going on at the booth a little later as well. So really appreciate you stopping by, talking with me here, and sharing some thoughts with our audience as well out there. So if people want to connect with you, learn more about TGW, what's the best way to do that?
The best way is LinkedIn.
There you go.
Or via our website.
All right, got it. All right, well, appreciate you stopping by, and we'll see you a little later this week. Have a great ProMat.
Perfect, thank you. Take care.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Take care. All right, that was Steve Galik, and he is VP of Business Development and Marketing over at TGW Group. And now, coming into the booth, we are going to have Bill Hadriana, old friend of the podcast, we'll say here. Take a seat, sir.
All right.
How are you?
I'm doing well, Kevin. How are you?
Doing well. It's great to see you.
Taking the couch, man.
Yeah, you like that? It's a little more comfortable than some of the past setups, right?
It's like being on the Carson show now.
That's what we're going for, a late show vibe, definitely. All right, we're happy you caught on there.
Very cool.
Definitely. So you are the president at Noble Lift now, which is a recent announcement. So congratulations.
Thank you.
First off, right? Yeah. So tell us a little bit, I guess, what brought you to Noble Lift, and also a little bit about Noble Lift too, for people maybe that aren't familiar.
Yeah, that's a great place to start. Maybe just to back up a little bit, into the why Noble, and me joining the company and so forth. I think a lot of it has to do with things we talked about at Modex in the past, which is, I really see so much change going on in the industry. And I think last time we spoke, I was talking about this like convergence, where, you see all these different things that are kind of coming together that kind of lend themselves to some really kind of punctuated change. And that's happened to some degree. I mean, I think, if you go in warehouses and facilities throughout North America, you're seeing a lot of changes over some of the tech coming into the space. But realistically, where we're at right now, and this kind of leads into me being at Noble Lift, is that in the next 10 years, if you and I are sitting at a show like this, it is going to be so radically different that I don't think necessarily we can predict it today. But I think the amount of change and the pace of that change, Kevin, is it's likely that we almost will not recognize this hall versus where it's at today. Like, I think when we walk around the booth today, it's going to be, or the facility today here at McCormick, it's going to almost feel like the Smithsonian 10 years from now when we kind of look back at this. And for future reference, we can record. This is recorded, so we can come back to it.
It's on tape. Yeah.
We can come back and see if my words are correct. But that kind of leads me to Noble Lift and why Noble. And the thing, a lot of people don't necessarily know Noble Lift and what they do, because a lot of it is behind the scenes. So globally, Noble Lift is the largest OEM manufacturer of lift trucks in the world. So a lot of what they make at their factories are made for other brands. So that's core to their business model. They kind of cut their teeth on in Class 3 and in pallet trucks. Okay. So a lot of people also don't know this, but they're the world's largest manufacturer of hand pallet jacks.
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay.
So that was, I remember when I was young, you could get a jack for like whatever it was, maybe $2.99 was an okay one, and then like $3.99 was the premium. Yeah. There was Bishman and BT, and the dealer channel was always selling the good one. Right. And then it became super price aggressive, and it was just cutthroat, where people were selling $199 manual jacks. And in that environment, Noble Lift was able to thrive and become the dominant global player in hand pallet trucks, and started providing them to a lot of OEMs, which was the seed of them now building forklifts for a lot of manufacturers. So So part of my coming to Noble Lift has to do with that. They're
Okay.
a high quality manufacturer that can make just about anything. And they're very skilled at that, having gone through that kind of battle of what kind of their origin story. So that was important to me. And then another aspect of Noble Lift that I thought was really important was that that they have this kind of culture of because they have that OEM business. They have this culture of collaboration. It's not really. We hear a lot of stuff about like partnership and collaboration because the industry is disruptive. I think most people on your podcast today are going to bring up one of those two words.
Yeah,
it's going to be we're going to collaborate, we're going to partner, and But realistically, I think the mindset has not evolved yet. I think there's so much disruption that's coming at us that is unpredictable. That feeling of wanting to partner and to collaborate is coming from a place of kind of almost fear. For a lot of manufacturers in this space, and it's about like protecting themselves a little bit or advancing themselves. And I think the mindset change that this industry needs, and I'm starting to see some of it, which is more the idea of collaboration and partnership to help the other company reach their potential and protect their markets and evolve themselves, and putting those partnerships, those joint ventures and those collaborations, just like we've talked for many years about putting the customer first.
Right.
It's like about putting your partner first and putting their interests first and paying it forward a little bit and realizing that nobody's going to control this.
Yeah.
It's too big, it's too disruptive, it's too unpredictable. So collaboration is key, and Noble Lift has a history of that. So we have a global manufacturer that has tremendous capability and a collaborative culture. And I wanted to be, later in my career here, I've been doing this for now 35 years. I think we've talked about this before. I think this is now 27. We'll have to check the tape. But my 27th MHI show. I've been doing this a long time.
Been around for a little bit. Yeah.
Been around for a little bit. And I mean, I want to spend the rest of my career like being out on that, kind of on that edge and trying to help people accelerate and collaborate in a genuine way that's putting their partners first to help bring value to customers that watch your podcast. Because the fact is that at the customer level, they're also going to have to deal with all sorts of incredible change over the next decade. So they're going to need to partner with vendors and organizations that have a culture that really puts their interests first, rather than trying to close them off into some kind of ecosystem of protection. And that's really where I'd like to take the Noble Lift brand over the next several years. Yeah,
interesting, great, and I love that thinking there, and I love too the idea of that. What we see now here is going to be like a museum, basically.
Like a museum.
Yeah. Interesting. One question there I'll ask you though: 10 years from now,
right?
Does the show get smaller?
I think
or does it get bigger?
I think the show actually changes tremendously. If I had to prognosticate right now, because we are on tape, we're going to take a gamble here, right?
Yeah.
Because nobody knows.
Let's roll the dice.
But I think that you're going to see. I think you're going to see a lot less equipment on the show, and you're going to see it be more like kind of a conference setting, because the building blocks and the puzzle pieces will be less important because the technology will provide so much value that will be more about, and not necessarily the technology we have today on the floor.
Yeah,
I think that the industry is going to transform in some ways that we really don't quite understand yet, because the big set pieces that are going to be paratrooped and dropped in to this industry over the next 10 years are going to fundamentally change things.
Yeah.
But I think less equipment, more conversation, some very different things will be here, like I said, and this will look like a museum in retrospect.
Interesting. Well, we'll hopefully in 10 years we'll be coming to you live from whenever that looks
wherever
like.
It looks like. That's right. Who
definitely.
knows?
So tell us a little bit about. I understand you're coming here to the booth with some breaking news.
Oh, breaking news.
Yeah. What is that?
Yeah. So I guess along those spirit of kind of collaboration and thinking about the future of the industry and so forth, we're announcing a new initiative today on your podcast.
Okay, let's do it.
So it's called Project Alpha.
Project Alpha.
Okay.
I like the sound of it already.
Yeah. So it's people can reference it at alpha.nobleLiftNA.com.
Okay.
There's also an app that people can go on and check out what it's all about. But essentially what it is that it's the world's first open source forklift. Okay. So this is so counterintuitive to the industry. The industry, once again, about like that kind of idea of, protecting their ecosystem and their market. That's been the history of the material handling equipment industry for as long as it's been around.
Right.
Which is if you want parts or this, that, and the other thing, technical documentation or whatever, you have to come to us. So the idea was to put a lot of population of equipment out into the field because it would drive parts and service revenue because they only had one place to go.
Yeah.
Right. Now, as technology comes in and disrupts and changes everything around us, you will see more open source, kind of ideas come into the space. And we're kind of trying to lead on that with what is a global sustainability project. So Project Alpha is our Alpha truck that's at our booth.
Okay.
It's that open source concept is going to help us over the next couple of years try to drive the cost down of a lithium forklift, the most popular model of forklift that's on the planet, which is a 5,000 pound pneumatic.
Yeah.
To try to get as much power as we can into that project to drive down the operating cost and help people transition from IC to E. Okay. So the other part of it that's really interesting is that the Alpha also has a sister product, which is an IC forklift.
Right.
They're identical.
Yeah.
And they actually share the same supply chain for the majority of the parts, and that helps like drive down the parts cost. And then also the IC truck can be retrofitted later to be lithium. So using the power of open source, I think is going to be very powerful. I think that if we're successful, it might actually cross different industries that other people might try this approach, which is really kind of turning the typical manufacturer's paradigm upside down and taking advantage of a community of, to kind of go after a project with a mission.
Interesting. I love the name Project Alpha, definitely.
Yeah.
And definitely want to check out the website and learn all about it. But I think it's such an interesting idea, right? Because I mean, if you're open sourcing it, essentially, you're kind of, you're sharing your secrets, so to speak, right?
Right. You're basically opening yourself up and becoming vulnerable, and that kind of ties into that idea of putting your partner first, not necessarily having your partner or your collaborator be a stepping stone to fit your own ends. Is really kind of looking at the big picture of that there is so much disruptive change that I think the companies that embrace it in a way that is truly collaborative and not so much worried about their own interests, but the interests of the industry, their customer especially, and the planet, those, I think they're going to be in a position of thought leadership that is going to make up for whatever the traditional hit they might suffer from intellectual property or something.
Yeah. It's very interesting. And I love the idea, and I love taking that idea of, partnership and collaboration to essentially the next level. Right?
That's what it is.
Yeah. And I think that's a great thing. And I'm going to be really interested to see like how that goes and some of the things that come out of that, because I think that allows for even further innovation, I think, in the space as well.
That's the idea, is to accelerate innovation. And I mean, to, put a kind of personal plug into some other things that follow through on this.
Sure.
I also started, I think, you've seen some posts from me on Blue Dojo AI. So that's kind of a passion project that I have where I'm helping young startups in the technology space, especially AI related companies, come into the supply chain and intralogistics, community, and connect them, kind of old school, but like connect them with like human networking, not VC money and all that kind of stuff, but really helping them get a leg up in the space and find true collaborations with people that are established players, but could benefit from some of these young companies coming in. And we just announced on Blue Dojo, which is Blue Dojo AI.
There we go.
There's my shameless plug, right? Is we launched it. We have a new member. They're actually here today in the startup pavilion.
I think I saw that this morning.
Yep, that's Tendril.io, and they have a very interesting platform that they offer for only $30 a month. Guys that look at watch your podcasts that are in the warehouse space and logistics in particular should check out Tendril.io. It's a really cool platform and very low cost at only $30 a month.
Definitely.
And part of that effort, which is once again really not a commercial thing, it's about advancing and accelerating and connecting people. Different from what the traditional approach is in the space. And then I think also along that line is we have another announcement that I have to make on the podcast this morning. So I've got a double one.
Okay. All right.
It's a double.
Let's hear it.
We're going to double dip. So the other one is that we have a collaboration with Gather AI. So Gather AI is here,
yes,
right?
Yeah. Okay.
So Sandkelp, I think you've talked to Sandkelp before.
Yeah. And we're gonna have him on the live stream tomorrow.
Okay,
actually.
cool.
Yeah.
He's fantastic. He's amazing. When it comes to the AI technology and practical application, he's right on the cutting edge of it. And we have a collaboration that we're announcing today with Sandkelp. That he has a new product that he's launched. You'll see a Noble Lift mobile mass reach truck in the Gather AI booth, demoing their new MHE vision system, which is really cool to go check out. I would highly recommend going over to Gather AI and taking a look at that. But as part of that collaboration, we're going to offer free installation of the MHI vision system on any Noble Lift product throughout the remainder of the year to help them out and kind of pay it forward, just like I've been talking about.
Oh, wow. Very interesting. So two announcements here, two breaking news with Bill. We always appreciate him coming with the great announcements and the information, and obviously a lot of that industry experience too that you bring to the table. So really appreciate you coming by, joining us, and we'll be catching up with Bill at their booth a little later this week as well. So stay tuned for that on the regular podcast in the future. But Bill, appreciate you coming by, and definitely congratulations on the new role and super exciting announcements with you here.
Thanks, Kevin. It's been great to talk with you as always. I'll catch up with you soon.
Definitely. We'll see you later this week. Enjoy the show. So it's Bill Padriana, president over at Noble Lift. And how about those breaking news announcements there? Really interesting stuff. And Dustin, yes, I will shoot those links over to you when we have a moment here. But up next, we have Uma Taylor joining us from MyBorg 3PL. We're going to get some end user perspective here. Just trying to figure out the headphones. You good? You got it?
Got it.
All right, here. Make sure we got you on the mic. All right. How are you, Uma?
I'm great. How are you?
Good. Good morning.
Good morning. It's been a busy day so far, huh?
Yeah. For me, how's it going for you?
It's been wham bam slam.
Yeah.
But it's a good thing, right? When
Definitely.
You're busy, that means the money flow is coming in.
Yeah, hopefully, right? Hopefully. So you're joining us from MyBorg 3PL, right? So tell us a little bit about MyBorg for people that are not familiar.
I love that you said the name correctly, MyBorg.
Of course, you trained me. Yeah.
Yeah, I tend to do that a lot. So we are a family-owned business. Started by Bill Meiborg with just 3 trucks, and then eventually Zach Meiborg took over, and he grew it up to 225 trucks today.
Wow.
We have 700 trailers. We also eventually expanded into warehousing. So we have 1.3 million square foot facility here in Rockford, Illinois.
And close by.
Okay. Close by.
Yeah.
Collectively, we have about 1.2 million right now in Houston, Texas. So we are growing very rapidly, and we are very excited. We are also a bonded facility. So this is what I'm going to talk to you about today. It seems to be like a very hot topic when it comes to the tariffs. Right?
Yeah, I mean, that's a lot of people are talking about that right now, right? I mean, there's a lot going on there. I guess tell us, first, why don't you tell us what a bonded warehouse is for people maybe that are not familiar?
Of course. A bonded facility is typically a facility that's physically here in the United States,
right?
But it's not here economically. So you can actually move things into a bonded facility without having the obligation to clear taxes. So you just don't do your customs clearance. And it's really important to a lot of people that have uncertainty right now, and they try to figure out if I should or should not pay taxes. And that's where this is one of the things that they could do, storing this into a bonded facility. And you can actually store these items up to 5 years.
That long?
That long.
I didn't realize that long.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah.
Without clearing it.
Yeah.
And you can do your quality control. You can check your items. That's the little perk that we have here at MyBorg.
Yeah, interesting. So now tell us a little bit about, because obviously, like you said, I mean, tariffs are like a huge topic right now, and probably by the end of this discussion, like they would have changed again, right? I couldn't even tell you like where they stand right now. I mean, it's changing like almost every day, every week, right? But a lot of the challenge, right, for some of these companies where they're finding these tariffs being an issue is because they've either been distributing from like Mexico or Canada into the United States, and there's been some ability to do some tariff or tax avoidance through doing that, right? So how does that utilizing a bonded warehouse? I mean, are you still able to get those same kind of benefits for people that were doing that, or does the tariffs change anything about the way bonded works? I mean, tell us a little bit about that.
Well, the good thing about bonded house, the customer is actually able to control the landed cost. Because if you're in a bonded facility, it does not mean that you're clearing taxes. So you can wait for a little bit. I'm actually going out speaking to a lot of people, telling them to wait until the end of April.
Okay.
That would be the best time for you to decide on what to do. Trump right now, he is pushing all these executive orders, but after pushing it, he's taking it a step back.
Yeah.
And then he's doing, he's either amending it or he's trying to figure this out himself. So while everything is up in limbo, I think it's best for everybody to just hold on just for a bit. So while you're doing that, you can put in a bonded facility like MyBorg's and just store it there up to a couple of months and then start pulling it out. You don't just have to do it during these uncertain times. You can just do it at a regular time where you don't know if you have clients, you don't know if you have people that are actually going to buy a product. So you can put it in there, and as soon as somebody buys your product, then they can start pulling them out little by little. I think that it's good because America is the biggest consumers in the world. I mean, there's China and India. When it comes to people, population-wise, they're really
Huge,
big.
yeah.
They're huge. But U.S. is the biggest consumers
Yeah, we love to spend.
almost in the entire world. Yeah, we're always spending. We bought through COVID. Everybody was worried about COVID, but we were still buying.
Yeah.
And you see, having this tariffs coming in from Mexico, Canada, people are like, oh my God, do I not buy products from Mexico or Canada? I would say just hold on just a minute, because what Trump is doing right now, he's trying to have them change their mentality, trying to just get them to adjust their behavior a little bit. And it seemed to be working. Once that is adjusted and we don't have these illegal immigrants coming in, with the drugs, and he's trying to control all that.
Yeah.
And with all of that, he would be able to do that just by slapping this right now, but eventually it's going to come down. But think about this. It's been successful because all the other countries around the world are actually reducing our duties right now because they want to be part of the U.S., knowing that we are the biggest, economy when it comes to people buying, spending. So of course everybody wants a piece of that cake, So I think that at the end of the day, we are winning. And what Trump is doing is not exactly, I wouldn't say it does not make sense. It does. If a company is slapping us with 15%, and we're now just slapping them with 3%, I think it's only fair for him to go back and say, I'm going to give 15% as well to balance this out.
Yeah.
So it's a plus and minus, but we'll just have to wait and see instead of just trying to jump into it and try to clear this out, because a lot of customers have come to me before. They're like, oh no, we're just going to do it. People just want to get this done and over with. But after a month, they're like, dang, I should have waited,
Yeah. Interesting. So I mean, it sounds like that with a bonded facility option, right, that may be an interesting way to kind of, deal with this, depending on whichever way it goes, right, to still, maybe save on some of that tax cost. But how, what rate or how quickly can someone get into a bonded warehouse? I mean, does it take extra time because of the stipulations around it, or how does that work for a customer?
Well, the thing is, anybody can actually have a bonded facility in their building, but it does take a lot of paperwork. That's why we are like, instead of going through all that process with paperwork, which typically takes about a week, 2 weeks to get everything sorted, just give us your problem. And having a warehouse that's already experienced in it, you don't have to worry about oh, at the end of the year, I have to file this CBP form 300. Yeah, like, what is that? You know? And if you don't do it, you're going to get fined.
Yeah.
But if you give it to somebody that has already been doing it for a while, it actually helps. It actually helps you eliminate your headache. Just give it to us and we'll store it. It may take about 2 weeks to get everything together, but after that, you're good to go.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, and I think that it is so uncertain right now, and I think I hear a lot of people saying that like we're not sure what we're gonna do because we don't want to do the wrong thing, like you said, like we should have waited a month, right, to see what's happening. So it's very interesting to hear about that option there for people to go after like a bonded solution. So tell us a little bit coming to ProMat, right? As like an end user, essentially, right? These solutions here are things that you would implement in, your business. Tell us a little bit about like what has you excited here. What are you potentially looking for? Like, what do you think might be a fit here for MyBorg?
Well, I think a lot of the robotic automation, I'm looking at it and I'm like, oh my God, the parceling and packaging,
Yeah.
We are an Amazon FBA ourselves.
Oh, okay.
So we do a lot of it. And right now we are doing things manually. It's effective. One of our customers is actually Spirit Halloween. So we do all their fun stuff, right? So getting into the robotic part eventually would be something I would be interested in. So that's one of my main goals of going around today, just to help what we have going on. And I mean, we're doing a fantastic work with everything that's going on. We were awarded with all kinds of awards by Spirit Halloween and even Expeditors, Warehouse of the Year. So we're extremely excited to see what's going to happen in the future. Nice.
All right, cool. Well, I look forward to connecting with you at the end of this week and learning what you really thought was exciting here and what potentially might end up in a MyBorg warehouse here down the road. So really appreciate you coming by and chatting with us. I think super informative in terms of like how to navigate with the bonded warehouses and potentially the tariff situation that's going on as well. So if people want to get in touch with you or learn more about MyBorg, what's the best way to do that?
I'm on LinkedIn. I'm always on LinkedIn. Actually, everybody that knows me, I'm on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
There's only one Uma Taylor on LinkedIn. So you can connect with me on there, or you can also email me at utaylor@myborginc.com.
All right, great. And definitely connect with her and really appreciate you stopping by. It's been a pleasure to talk to you, and we will see you later this week and enjoy the rest of the show.
Thank you for having me, Kevin.
All right. Thanks, Uma. All right, that was Uma Taylor from MyBorg 3PL. Up next, we have Ed Kennedy, who is VP End User Enablement at Decision Point. And Ed is coming into the booth here with some toys that we're going to check out here as well. All right, can you hear me?
I can. Hey, great to see you again.
Good to see you as well. Great to get you in here. And on the live stream, I see you're all geared up here with some new solutions. Before we talk a little bit about that, first, let's kick it off. Tell us a little bit about Decision Point, and you guys recently did a merger. So tell us a little bit about that too, so people are familiar.
Sure. So Decision Point Technologies is the market leader in enterprise mobility solutions, integrating purpose-built, innovative edge technologies. We're doing that throughout North America. We have about 300 employees between the U.S. And Canada. And we work with about over 4,000 clients, managing well over 2 million assets. The reality is every day, what we do with our clients is that we work with them in designing, deploying, managing, and extending those critical assets in various different workflows. And today I'm pretty excited to talk about a new world-class solution.
Yeah.
That's very exciting. And I think the timing is perfect because a lot has to do with labor. Right? And all you hear when we're talking to clients is how important is worker safety. It was just in a recent article by Accenture in their annual Life Trends, they mentioned that 49% of all employees feel the number one they think here the most is worker productivity, but yet 29% of those employees surveyed feel they don't feel their employers have their best interest at heart.
Interesting. Wow. Yeah, and I think that labor is such a core tenet of what we do, right? In the warehouse. I mean, it's a necessity, right? So we're gonna check out this ProGlove My. I have a little video clip here actually that we're gonna play as a preview here. All right. So how was that? That was a pretty cool little teaser. I like that. So we have the MAI, right?
Yes.
MAI.
Correct.
Right. I guess what does that stand for?
It's a good question, right?
Yeah.
I think I looked it up. Depending in Japan, it means one thing. I think in Germany means something else. So not really sure what the intent, but it's a catchy little name.
Yeah, definitely. And you're wearing it here on your hand, right? So this looks like it's an evolution of ProGlove, right?
Yes. In fact, if you remember 3 years ago, you and I, we were at Modex. We were talking about this particular solution.
Right. Yeah.
And it is now evolved into this. And what it is this particular unit worn on the back of the hand instead of on the ring finger communicates via Bluetooth to the mobile device. And what was nice is what you were doing here was giving this specific task at that moment in time. Okay. But if there was ever any exceptions, short picking, you might be building layers on a pallet, whatever it may be, you would then have to still go back to the mobile device. So what does that really mean is guided work is very important. And so technologies like voice or HU display are on the market, but the challenges that we're hearing, the feedback is today the users have more say than they ever had. And so if they don't like it, they're not going to use it, because the reality is they know that if it doesn't work there, they can go somewhere else and work. So introducing the MAI, and what the MAI is a wearable companion that provides worker guidance right on the back of the hand. And so what that means is, other than maybe logging into the mobile device, the device can sit in the pocket. I literally can do everything here. So on this one, where it was just a display, not only do we have a touch screen, but we have 4 programmable buttons. So I can do all kinds of things just right here. Nothing on the head, nothing on the waist. And scanning seems to be very important because of the accuracy. So some operations have brought scanning back. And so to wear something here that's actually lighter than the watch I'm wearing, right? It's really
it doesn't come with that watch, right?
It doesn't come with the watch, no.
Okay.
And then they also they made it durable, right? So it's it's a OLED display, Gorilla Glass, and it has the ability to scan from a couple inches out to 25 feet. So it can be used in any type of business process. And what's exciting is, if you think about the workers we're working today, many of them are gig workers, and you're going to take them. So what is a true gig worker today versus 20 years ago, where they were freelancers? Today's gig worker is a mobile user, right? He could be working for Amazon, could be working for Uber Eats. So when he comes into the operation, he wants to be able to put on his equipment, doesn't want a whole lot of training, though training is important, would like to watch a video, and just wants to get out and do the work. And that's what this does, because it's worker guided. So I can, I'll give you an example. So I'm just going to log on really into our demo.
Sure. Yeah. And I think too, I mean, what's really interesting about it as he gets that set up is it's so reminiscent of devices that we use in like our daily, like personal lives, right? I mean, which I think, transitions so well for from a user perspective, as we're able to, especially get younger generations too, as they come in, right? I mean, they're used to, when I first saw it, right, when you showed it to me, I'm like, oh, this reminds me of kind of like an Apple Watch, right? Or smartwatch, right? So tell us a little bit about it.
100%. The younger generation today, they believe in 2 things. They either want to use technology that resembles something in their personal life, or B, technology that wants to make sense. That's it. That's what they want to use. If it doesn't make sense. So for example, some of the mobile devices that are still on the market today have keypads. Those keypads make absolutely no sense to them at all. In fact, if you look at the keypad, it's not even in a QWERTY format, right?
Yeah.
So they want intuitive, right? Intuitive display. But more importantly, if the operations has any type of like labor incentives, then they want to work as fast as possible. They want to feel safe. They want to feel comfortable. So if they can see on the camera here, it's worker guidance because it's drawing to me, what do I need to do next? So in this case, scanning an HU, and then I'm driven to a bin location, right? I don't even need to search here. Whatever is highlighted is what I do next. So I can scan my bin. And now I'm told to pick 2. Now here's the exciting part. I could be someone who's working in a beverage operation that I'm on a walkie ride at pallet jack, and I'm picking from both sides of the aisle. I simply can build my pallet and then do the confirmation to pick. I can simply do a double tap. It takes me to my next pick. But now when I get to that location and I'm going to go pick 5, but there's only 4 there, well, normally I would go back to the mobile device and short pick it. Nope. Right. I can pop up what we call as an input widget, and I can input 3 and hit enter and move on. Some of the other exciting things we do, why we see this as a great alternative to HUD, is with a later release in the firmware, we're going to be able to display pictures. So, visual's faster than voice. It's very proven. And so the fact that I could see what I need to pick, I could have the picture. But let's just say I don't need the picture there all the time. Yeah. Well, unlike the initial one, we only had 8 templates we could work with. With this one, we have the ability to swipe. So I could swipe, see the picture, and then go right back to where I was. So you're picking a particular diet flavored soda that comes in vanilla, cherry, etc., and they're all slotted near each other. Now that I see the right one, it can eliminate that. Another use case might be like in shipping, where the boxes are coming down the conveyor. It's not picking, and they're going to scan it, and then they're going to put the box in the shipping lane, right, on a pallet. Right. Maybe they need to pop a hazmat label on there. Well, we could send on that particular pick hazmat label. It shows a little picture. User grabs the label, puts it on the box. Now, not only it's going out to the right store, but it's been marked properly. So true worker guidance. Nowhere in those scenarios do I need to go back over to the mobile device.
Yeah, and I think that's fantastic, right? Because certainly the original Pro Glove that you have there was certainly a great technique to be a little more hands-free, right? But as you said, you still had to have that additional mobile device attached to that to be able to get the full functionality of everything you needed to do. So putting that into one thing here, and I think having such a clear display, right, and such a intuitive display too that is reminiscent of what we use in our daily lives every day, is such an unlock from a user perspective, and also I think from like a training perspective too as well.
The simplicity is if you can just follow the blue light, you can get your work done. And the nice thing is the user doesn't have anything heavy mounted on their arm. Right. It's not mounted on the cart. So at the end of the day, some of these other solutions might be actually more expensive than the new Pro Glove My. And now it's a win-win for everyone, because you got happy users that can be productive at what they do, and they like what they do.
Yeah, absolutely. And really a great solution, and really appreciate you coming by to show it to us. And we do have somebody saying here, great ergonomics and hands-free solution in the comments. So really good stuff here, and really fantastic to see. If people want to learn more about it, or maybe they're going to be here at the show later this week, where can they find it?
They can find Decision Point Technologies in the South Hall in booth 1050. And then you could also find this solution in the Pro Glove booth as well in the South Hall. And one last thing I want to point out, Decision Point Technologies has built an integration piece that allows us to integrate into any warehouse management system that can present a mobile UI that is browser based, or even those who are still using a green screen. Literally for us, we can work together and begin a project together.
Yeah, fantastic, definitely, and definitely check them out if you're here at the show, or head to Decision Point Technologies website to learn more as well. So Ed, really appreciate you coming by
Kevin.
The booth, and always appreciate a guest that comes by with some toys. That's really nice.
It's exciting.
All right. Have a good rest of the show, and we'll catch up with you a little later. So that was Ed Kennedy, VP of End User Enablement for Decision Point Technologies, and up next we have And we have Payush Sampat. He is supply chain consulting partner with Deloitte, coming up here to the couch booth stage. Come on in and take a seat. He's going to be our last guest of the day. Definitely looking forward to talking to him. All right. So if you're watching, let us know in the comments. What do you like so far that we talked about? What do you think about that My solution that we just saw here? This is going to be your mic, headphones. And if you're coming to ProMat this week, let us know too in the comments as well. We want to see you. We want you to come by the booth. All right. Can you hear me? All right. Feel free to put that there. Welcome in. How are you this morning?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Doing well. Happy to see you. Happy to get you in here. So you're joining us from Deloitte here, your supply chain consulting partner over there. I love the St. Patrick's Day bow tie and what do you call it, handkerchief here, right?
Thank you.
Very on point for today on St. Patrick's Day. So happy St. Patrick's Day to you.
Thank you. Same to you.
Thank you. So you're joining us from Deloitte here. And now tell us a little bit about kind of Deloitte's supply chain practice. Give us a brief overview. What do you guys focus on? Maybe what do you focus on specifically within the ecosphere of supply chain?
Right. So first off, Deloitte, we have about 15,000 people that focus in supply chain globally.
Oh, wow. That many.
Yeah, that many. It's, that's globally. We practice across the strategy through implementation, and we break it up into 3 areas, whether we're doing advice work, like strategy work, to implement, like, software implementation, system integration work, to operate, where we're just, running projects. And then functionally, the areas you asked about, where I focus is in the fulfillment and logistics space. So I lead that practice. Then we also do supply chain planning, sourcing and procurement, product development, lifecycle management, and manufacturing, and then digital supply chain. So those are the different functional areas that the 15,000 practitioners are split across.
Gotcha. Well, I think we got the right guy because we love the fulfillment and logistics side here, and we're at the right show for that too, right?
Yeah, this is my show.
Definitely. So tell us a little bit about, because coming from a consulting perspective, right? You get to see a lot of different challenges, right? A lot of different operations, a lot of different problems people are facing in the industry. So tell us, like, right now, I mean, we're gonna have like 60,000 people descending upon this place in the industry, right? And I'm sure they all have challenges, right? There's 60,000 different challenges there potentially. So what are some of the top challenges that you're seeing from either people that you're engaging with or just in the industry as a whole right now?
I think the overall theme, I would say, is just finding the overall balance of human resources and technology resources and how they come together to optimize efficiency, streamline that workflow, and keep and maintain flexibility. That to me is that overall challenge. And if you break it down, it comes into a few different components. The first is around inventory management. How do you best manage your inventory? You want to have the right amount of inventory so you don't have inventory stockouts.
Yeah.
But you also don't want to have inventory overages.
Right.
You want to manage your space. You want to effectively manage space. So there's a lot of design layout concepts, and we'll see some of that, today at the show. The third is around labor costs. How do you best manage labor costs? And that's where, some of the automation comes into play. And then you start looking at how do you best adopt technology? How do you make that transition to where does technology play? Where do I use, human resources? What's that balance look like? And then finally, how do I put in modular or scalable solutions so that I can handle seasonal demand, whether I'm a retailer and I have certain spikes, or I'm a life sciences or a high-tech company and I have spikes within a month. How do I manage my demand and my forecast, or even changing customer expectations? And so I think those are 5 of the key challenges we're seeing our clients face, but it's all around that balance of the human and the technical resources that have to come together.
Interesting. Yeah. And I think it is such a delicate balance, right? And you touched on the inventory management there. And I think that, right now with everything kind of going on, that's certainly like a hot topic, right? Of like, how much do I have? And, there is a discussion around, moving from just in time to just in case, right? In some aspects, but as you look at kind of here with in ProMat, right? Obviously we see, we can't miss it, the robotics, the automation, and things like that. I mean, how are you looking at some of these solutions? Like, how do you come here as, a consultant essentially and look at solutions potentially for existing clients or future clients to see what really is, kind of viable for the long term?
As we think about it and we start looking at some of the solutions and we start thinking, going to your question around specifically inventory, some of the things to look at are how can we take inventory management and start to automate some of those processes. The basics of RFID, those are some things that are tried and true and people may have done previously or may not have truly optimized. But then how do you take IoT sensors and use those in a cold chain, for example? So the IoT provides humidity information, cold chain information, so that can automatically provide information that in today's world requires people to scan a device or put temperature gauges on devices or trucks. And so how do you use that? The second is around what's the next step in the evolution of warehouse management software or inventory management software? How is that now evolving to provide certain aspects to provide real-time inventory information, order information? And the third is AI and data analytics. Yeah. What's that forecasting look like? What's your demand patterns look like? What's going on in the world that may shift your forecast so you can better position your inventory throughout your supply chain, not just in your fulfillment center, your warehouse, but potentially in stores or in forward locations that are closer to that point of demand.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think I love that you kind of started there with, getting that understanding and then bringing the systems into place to be able to get a handle on that information that's coming in. And now, around AI, if we look at AI, I mean, there's obviously tons of discussion around AI, right? And, a lot of the conferences you go to, everything is like .ai this or, oh, now we have AI, right? And all these things. But if we look at like the warehouse fulfillment side of things and supply chain specifically, I mean, how real is AI in like the warehouse right now? Like, where are you seeing like great applications of it? And are people really embracing it as much as, a lot of the marketing or talk may make it seem?
I think AI is still at the very beginning of the adoption in warehousing. It has started to make inroads in inventory management positioning. And so a couple examples where we've been able to leverage AI is specifically to help our clients better understand what their forecast would be. And based on that, how to best position inventory throughout their supply chain. What goes in certain fulfillment centers, what may go in stores, what may go in micro fulfillment centers in certain geographies. And then based on that, what goes in certain inventory locations. So in gold zone pick locations, maybe there's certain product that would go.
Yeah.
And that helps then to streamline what gets picked when. It helps optimize your picking process as well. So indirectly, by understanding at least your demand patterns, you can best understand what inventory and therefore improve your overall operations. There's still a significant amount of opportunity with AI for both inventory, but definitely with operating your DCs. I think we're still focusing on how to take analytics and using analytics in a real-time nature to improve operations. So I still think there's a significant amount of runway for AI to change how we run our operations.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's very interesting to hear that because it seems like there's advancements in AI like every week almost, right? And it's rapidly advancing. So in that case, I mean, where would you maybe caution people when it comes to AI to, not necessarily, because I think there's a lot of uncertainty too, like around like, the data security, especially, and things like that. Where would you caution people or how would you guide them to start to look at it, but maybe like not fully go in, or how would you guide them in that sense?
Yeah, I think the first thing I would say is one size does not fit all. And what I mean by that is an AI solution that may have worked for one client may not necessarily work for another client. And I think it's important to think about that because each client, their data is different, their margins are different, their inventory positions are different. And it's important if you're going to adopt AI to think about it from first off a test and learn perspective. You may think about, if you're going to take an AI, get a use case, get a small set of data and test, learn, adapt, and then go through a continuous learning process before you do a whole scale change. And I would find several use cases and take the 3-4 use cases, take small slices of data, and be able to test and learn from that, and then determine what's the best that for your client and for your company.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's great advice, definitely, to take that kind of slow phase approach, essentially, right? And say, do a little test here, almost like, you get a cleaning solution, right? It tells you like test a spot first before like discoloring, like do that little test and pilot there first to be able to navigate that. So very interesting there. So, AI, obviously a huge topic, but, we look around here in the facility that we're in and in the multiple halls here at ProMat, there's a lot of other technology too that's out there. So for you this week, what is kind of the most exciting thing? Maybe like what's one or two things that like you're really interested in seeing or discussing?
I think one of the things I want to focus my time on is really digging more into the cobots, the collaborative robots, and understanding how robots, automation are going to play with human resources, and truly find that balance. As I mentioned, going forward, I think the key to operating efficiently, maintaining that flexibility that's critical to handle seasonal demand, and being able to ensure a smooth workflow is going to be having an equal balance of automation and human resources. And so with that being the case, I'm really excited about the cobots and understanding how we can have a collaborative environment between automation and human resources.
Interesting. Yeah. And what do you think that looks like, long term? I mean, do you think because there's always talk around robots of they're going to take humans out of the jobs and things like that. I mean, what do you think that balance is like long term?
Yeah, I don't think they're going to take humans out of a job. I think the responsibilities are going to shift. I think where there's opportunities for repetitive, mundane tasks, I think that's where cobots and automation can play a role. Where there's decision making, there's exception processes, that's where we can focus human resources. And I think it's finding a collaborative environment for human and technical resources to work together. I think the second component that's important that we try to work with our clients on is training.
Yeah.
Oftentimes what we find is we train people and it's one and done, but there's oftentimes required is retraining, and that's a continuous improvement process. So after 6 months, retrain them. What have they learned? What have they forgotten? As they've learned things, how do you retrain them so they can continue to grow in their role and continue to improve what they're doing and continue to do that. So I think that's another component that's critically important. And so, to me, I think there is an environment where, there's automation and human resources collaborating together. I think the third aspect that makes this critically important is around modularity and scalability to maintain that flexibility, because we need automation to be able to scale up and down with seasonal demand, but we also need to have human resources that can scale up and down with seasonal demand. So having flexibility of both components is going to be critical as well. So I'm looking forward to just understanding how the two are going to play together. And that's the reason that I'm looking forward to understanding a little bit more about the collaborative robots that'll be at today's show.
Interesting. All right. And we'll definitely be on the lookout for that and hopefully catch up with you a little later to learn what you did think about that after you see them this week. So really appreciate you coming by, joining me here in the booth. And now if people want to get in touch with Deloitte or learn more, maybe they're going to be here later in the week. What's the best place to find you?
So we have a booth. It is booth number E12655.
Or you can, good.
Yeah. Or you can reach me at PI Sampat, SAMPAT at Deloitte.com, or you just go out to Deloitte.com, look for supply chain, and click the link.
All right. Awesome. And definitely check that out. And also, if you're going to be here at ProMat Wednesday night, right, your colleague over here, former podcast guest too, Wanda, she's going to be on stage, right, presenting
on stage at MHI.
The industry report.
Yes, the MHI industry report.
All right. So be on the lookout for that, and definitely check out the report as well, and check out Deloitte. So really appreciate you stopping by and joining us today and this morning on the kickoff of ProMat here 2025.
Great. Thank you, Kevin. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Have a good rest of the week.
Thanks. You too.
All right. So that is going to be the wrap up for us today with the live stream on day one. I got to wrap it up and head over to the sustainability theater here in a couple minutes to do a panel discussion around sustainability in the warehouse environment. I'm going to be joined by Nucor Warehouse Systems and Big Joe on the panel itself. But definitely appreciate everybody tuning in here. Hope you got some value. Hope you got to learn about some of the things that are going here on the floor. And if you're going to be here this week, please do stop by, say hello, try and find us down, track us down. We got some stickers here. We have some fun stuff going on. And, you know, you can chill out on the couch too if we're not streaming live. But we will be back on tomorrow morning starting at 9:30 a.m. Central Time. So wherever you tuned in today, you can tune in there tomorrow as well. So really appreciate you guys tuning in, all the support. It's great to be back here at ProMat for this week, and we hope to be bringing you tons of additional insights and great guests. So join us tomorrow again or Wednesday morning. So thank you very much. Enjoy your day. And if you're traveling, enjoy your travels and safe travels over here to ProMat. Thank you.